Welcome to the first Thorgiween ever, where I think that my skit for this year is actually going to be less scary than what's going on in the actual world. But yes, it is time once again for Thorgiween, the 31 days straight of us reviewing horror movies every single day, including tons of other videos that have to do with everything spooky and scary and celebrating the best time of the year and all that other stuff. Listen, this is like our fourth Thorgiween. You all know the deal by now. Point is, this is the post-Shriek out reaction, so it is going to be us reviewing horror films every single day, and we are kicking it off with In the Mouth of Madness, and we're kicking it off for two reasons. One is because if you saw our opening skit, every single Thorgiween has a theme. This year's Thorgiween theme is the apocalypse, and I was actually going to do a theme week. Every single year we also do theme weeks. The first couple days, it's just whatever we want to watch. Just anything that's like, I've always been meaning to watch this, or it's been a while since I've gone back and watched this thing. But then when we get into the actual, Sunday through Saturday weeks, we actually tend to have a theme, and I was going to have apocalypse as a theme. And I looked it up, there's almost no horror films about the end of the world
it's usually
that aren't just zombies.
Yeah, it's usually sci-fi.
Sci-fi and action are like the end of the world things. And I think it's because everybody has that fantasy of when the end of the world happens, I'm going to be the one that gets out there and kicks all kinds of ass. And as we have seen by asking people to wear fucking masks and be decent for once, no, you won't. You will not. We will say, hey, here's how bad the world has gotten. And it's like, I don't want to do that. No. I'd rather have the horrible things continue to happen than be inconvenienced. So this has been an interesting year to learn things about people. All I'm saying is if you have a plan to survive the zombie apocalypse, but you're unwilling to wear a mask right now, you're kind of a dipshit. That's all I'm saying. Point is, I looked up horror movies that had to do with the apocalypse, and I found 7. I found 7, I was like, yeah, but I'm kind of stretching it on some of these ones, so no. But this is the one that I really wanted to get to, because I have not seen this film in 15 years. And I remember really liking it when I saw it, but I did want to know, okay, does it hold up? How well am I going to still enjoy this? So we decided to take that, bump it up. It is now the first movie that we're reviewing, and I gotta say, I did like this film when I originally saw it. But now watching it all these years later, I actually really kind of love this film. There were actual moments in which I was watching this. This is done by John Carpenter, and my favorite John Carpenter film of all time is The Thing. There were moments watching this in which I was like, maybe it's gonna actually overtake it a little bit. Right now it's kind of, oh no, The Thing still wins. But still, it was close. I love the hell out of this movie.
I've never seen it before, but I also enjoyed it.
Okay. I want to get into that, though, because that is not what you said last night.
No, but it's I said last night it was interesting because it ended not in the typical horror movie ending.
It is a very non-typical horror movie ending.
And that's kind of why I had to take a moment to process.
You had to process, yeah. Because I remember, all right, whenever we watch these horror films, I grew up watching a lot of horror films. You did not.
No, my parents. My parents wouldn't let me.
Yeah, so you're discovering a lot of this stuff for the very first time. So every now and then, whenever we're watching a film that I've seen before, I do enjoy looking over and looking at you and seeing okay, what's your reaction like? And I don't think I've ever seen you look so disturbed by a film. And also, whenever we watch these films during Thorgiween, even if the film is good, we're still going to talk during it. We still occasionally chime in and say, well, what's the deal with this thing? Hey, look at that thing over there. Or we'll just crack a joke if the film is really bad. You could hear a fucking pin drop between the two of us one thing. I don't think we have ever been this quiet watching a movie. Not a couple minutes in, we might have said something, and then after that, dead silence throughout the entire rest of the film. And I just occasionally would look over at you, and you'd just be you just legitimately look disturbed by this, and
I think that was more trying to fit the pieces together than being disturbed. Although there are plenty of disturbing moments.
That's okay, interesting. That I can definitely understand that as well, because it is one of those films where it's okay, what the hell is going on here?
It's this could be a possibility, but also this, and this, and
yes.
it's not really a movie that gives you any specific answers. but it does hint at a lot of things.
I'd say that it does give you...
It does give you some answers, but then it sometimes raises even more questions. So.
It depends on how deep you want to look into it, I'd say. Because essentially what this film is about, we should probably explain this to everybody out there. What this film is about is that Sam Neill, in one of his earlier roles, it's not his earliest one that I've seen. I've seen some of this stuff before this, but it is still before Jurassic Park. It is before this guy blew up. He plays an insurance inspector, and basically his job is busting hoaxes. It is to go in there and say, like, hey, this guy says that his place burned down, but we went and talked to this person, then talked to this person, and it turns out, nope, you were lying about that. So even though he just investigates insurance claims, he's essentially a detective. And there is this horror novel author, novelist, I guess you could call him, a horror author out there who he is the biggest author in the world. He's like if Stephen King became, I was about to use another writer in there, but then I realized, wait, they're a terrible person. I don't want to bring them up right now. But yeah, it's like if Stephen King, at the height of his popularity, because for anybody who remembers Stephen King back in the 90s, everybody was talking about that guy, is like if you took that and then just blew it up 10 times. Everybody's talking about him.
Yeah, like the author's name is Sutter Kane.
Sutter Kane, which I think is one of my favorite fake names I have ever heard. Like, because you hear that name and you just go, oh, he's up to no good. That man, there's something wrong with that man. And there's almost a catchphrase in this movie where people will go up to people and go, have you read Sutter Kane? And the first guy who says that is this weird free guy, which this is an amazing shot and a great way to introduce this. In which you just see Sam Neill having lunch with his boss, and he's telling him about this new case about how this author Sutter Kane just went missing, and the publishing company, they want someone to investigate this, so they're trying to hire him on board. And the entire time they're having this conversation, you see this guy like exiting a building across the street, walking across the street, walking all the way up, hopping over the fence, and he's carrying an axe with him. It's like, it's not one continuous shot, but anytime that it cuts back to that guy, I'm just like, oh, this is really building some good tension within the span of 5 seconds. But when he comes in here and he gets Sam Neill down on the ground, he just comes in there, and I swear it had to be like the movie trailer voice guy in there, because it was definitely an ADR line. It was too deep and definitely sounded too crisp compared to all the other dialogue in here. But someone just comes in and records over him saying, have you ever heard of Sutter? No. Have you read Sutter Kane? I was like,
and it's like, you know, they use that in the commercial.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the trailer right there. That's it. So he starts reading all these books, and he starts to learn that there's some people out there who, when they read his books, they start having headaches, they start getting dizzy, they start having paranoia, they start getting like schizophrenia, some of them even. And he thinks it's all hoax. He thinks that there's all these reports, they're all fake. And he looks at the books and he discovers there's kind of like a hidden map inside each of the books. And it leads to this point, which, by the way, it's clear that this guy is supposed to be like kind of a take on Stephen King. And it's not set, I think it's set in New Hampshire. It's not set in Maine, but it's like,
definitely like one of the New England states.
Exactly. It's like right next to Maine. I'm just like, that's clever. I see what you did there. You knew what you were parodying there with that. But they discovered that, it kind of points to this. And just like Stephen King, how he loves to return to the same one town in Maine for many of his books, most of Sutter Kane's books are all set in this one town. And that one town doesn't appear on any map.
Like, what was the name of it? Like Hogs End or something?
It was something like that, yeah. It was. I remember it began with an H. I was going to say Hopeston, but I was like, no, that's way too literal. But yeah, I think Hobson. I think you're right. Yeah. So he and this woman who works for the publishing agency, they set off and they have to track down this town. And when they get there, they start just seeing the weirdest stuff, and everything from every Sutter Kane book is in this town. And there's so many things like you said, I fully understand how you were looking at this film like, what the hell is going on right now? Because there's a lot of things to piece together in this film.
Like, by the way, when they were like out on the road and there was like no light except for the lines on the road, that's fucking scary. Like that's exactly what it's like going cross country like in the middle of the night.
Oh, I grew up out in the country. I remember that drive. That drive was my ride home, and even going home, it scared the shit out of me. There was a reason I wanted to move to a big city, is I was like, dude, I am too paranoid about just living in the woods. I can't freaking do this. It freaks me out too much. And by the way, funny story, like 6 months or something after I moved up to New York and I moved out of my parents' house that I was living in, my dad called me up and he said, hey, so just so you know, some people might ask you about this. A few days ago, some people broke into a house on the other side of the river and they murdered someone in there. And last night, the house you had been staying in got broken into. Mm-hmm. And
you moved out just in time.
I was like, holy fuck. Jesus. Like I said, everybody talks to me about like, oh yeah, New York is so dangerous. Like, motherfucker, if somebody tries to break into my house, I've got neighbors on all sides of me. There's people on the street I can yell for it all the time. There is always someone calling for help up here in this city. This entire time, it just keeps getting freakier and freakier. And people are saying, like, I've never even heard of Sutter Kane. But then all of a sudden, they're at this church, and it's a church that was in one of his books that's dedicated to worshiping the old gods. Because that's the thing. It's clearly supposed to be... It's clearly supposed to be Stephen King. I tripped over my own tongue on that one. It's clearly supposed to be Stephen King, but it's definitely also H.P. Lovecraft. It is...
Yes, you can, see, in the art and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
the cover art on his books and stuff.
Yeah, and, people transform into weird tentacle monsters, and there's old gods. I haven't read every Stephen King book, but I've never read that in any Stephen King book. The stuff about Stephen King is, hey, there's a popular horror author in the 90s. He has one specific town in the New England state that he loves to go to. That's kind of what this is tying him into Stephen King. The actual themes of the things he writes, it's H.P. Lovecraft, and this is honestly the best H.P. Lovecraft film you are ever going to get. And because the thing about H.P. Lovecraft is that most of his horrifying things are things that you can't really capture on film accurately, because the entire point of them is that they're so terrifying that if you looked at them, you would go insane, and there's really no way to capture that. This film does some really creative stuff in there. I won't fully spoil it, because if you're at all intrigued by anything I've said, you should absolutely go and watch this film. But there's a moment in which you see Sutter Kane in the room that he's working in, and it's just painted in blood, and it almost looks like he's working in a room of flesh. But there's one big wooden door over there, but the big wooden door is breathing.
Yeah, it's pulsating, and it's oozing slime.
Yeah, it is freaky. Anytime that you show me something that should not be able to breathe, for lack of a better term, solid wood, but it is pulsing. Oh man, that'll do it to me. But it's not just imagery. It's not stuff like that necessarily. That stuff is in there. But it's kind of this idea that Sutter Kane is God, and we're all just creations that he's written. Mm-hmm. And Sam Neill's character is, they raise these questions in here about, do you even exist at all? Or are you something that he created?
Yeah, exactly.
So that you could deliver this message out to the world?
Yeah, it's his character is a very much a realist.
Yes, he is. So it's super skeptic.
Yeah, he's are you... It's is this how you are, or is this how Sutter Kane wrote you to be?
Yeah, there's a moment in here in which he is trying to get out of there with the woman from the publishing agency, and she has already fully been brainwashed by this cult. And as he's driving away, she starts trying to make out with him. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he goes, "I can't stop. He's writing me to do this. He says that's good for the story." And I was like, that should be funny, and the delivery of the line almost is.
But it's also oh, that's also really messed up.
That's messed up. It is funny, and also it's actually pretty good commentary on, like, you know, sex appeal and stories and things.
And like forced love interest.
Forced love interest is, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's great commentary on that in that exact one scene. So it's kind of funny. It's horrifying.
Yeah, like,
and
I remember,
commentary.
like, it wasn't the first time they made out either. There was, like, another time, and you were like, oh, well, that seemed like out of nowhere.
Both of us at the same time just went.
And then when they
That's
do
as close as we got to making a sound while watching this.
And then when they did it a second time, she explains like, oh.
Actually, no. That's not what that's the first time that she did. Afterwards, it's revealed that she took his keys. So she made out with him to reach her hand in his pocket, take out his keys. And because afterwards he's walking outside and he's like looking in his pocket, like, what's going on? And like you see she's got the keys. So that's what that was.
Okay.
That wasn't Sutter Kane toying with her.
Or was it? I don't know.
Honestly, yeah,
that's what makes this movie so disturbing.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know if like you have free will in this universe.
Did I ever tell you my favorite color is blue line? I remember when I first saw that, I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool, like, little creepy thing. That scared the fuck out of me this time watching it. And man, that's the thing that I gotta come back around this. We watch 31 horror movies every single year for Thorgiween. Every now and again, one will have an effect on me, but typically it's a new thing that I've never seen before. As I said, I've seen this film before. This scared the hell out of me, and I don't think it's... sorry, hiccup. And I don't think it scared me all that much the first time that I watched it. I remember walking away like, oh, that's not bad. That's pretty good. Okay, that was enjoyable enough. I remember like just being legitimately disturbed after watching the second time. And I think maybe it is because, like you, the first time that I watched this, I was piecing the things together. This time, I could kind of like sit there and just like let it wash over me everything that was going on in here. Because, yeah, when this film opens up, the film begins almost at the end of the film. It begins with Sam Neill being thrown into an insane asylum. And then it rewinds back, and I can fully understand if you've never seen this film, that's something that's automatically gonna hit you like, what? And then like, when you see how much Sutter Kane messes with him in the third act. Because everything up until then is like just little tiny, just tweaks, just little tiny, like, just a little tiny stab right there. There's a poke right there. In the third act, reality itself is like, reality, time, everything is going on. And I can absolutely understand. If you have not seen this before, it's like, what? Wait, hold on. What does he mean when he says that thing? It's like, I know what that means because I know what comes later on in this film. I really do want to talk more about this film, but like I am so afraid of spoiling it, and I do think that this is absolutely a film that is worth watching. It is, and the reason why I'm so excited talking about this is it is rare for me that I enjoy a horror film more the second time. Horror is just like comedy. Every time that you see it, it's going to have diminishing returns because you know the punchline is coming. You know the scare is coming. This film, man, it is rare that something like this can happen to me. So, yeah, I really did walk away just absolutely loving this thing now. Which, considering that this entire film is about people who fall head over heels in love with this writer's work, it is kind of freaky that now I'm like, no, I totally get it now. Yeah, now I see what this film is about. I don't know, what's your opinion now that you've had the time to kind of process this, put it all together?
I really, I enjoyed this because, it's more like a psychological thriller.
Very psychological.
Because, you don't know what was real, or what Sutter Kane wrote, or if this is supposed to be what's supposed to happen, or if you have free will or not.
It's the whole it's rare that you can see a film that raises the whole "do you have free will" question more than this one does. And man, we've been talking about the main characters here. There was one guy in there who, God, what was the second villain in Ghostbusters? The guy in the painting.
Oh yeah, well, I forgot.
Not Gozer the Gozerian.
No, but I
Vigo? Was it Vigo? Yes, you were like the buzzing of flies to Vigo. I think that's what it was.
Something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, that actor is in here as a townsfolk who's trying to kill Sutter Kane, and you see him in the town telling Sam Neill to get out of the town. But then, like, the next time that you see him after that, you can tell he tried to go back and fight Sutter Kane, and he's in this bar just, like, bleeding and everything. And I won't say what he does, but Sam Neill tries to stop him, and he goes, I can't. I'm being written to do this. I can't. This is what Sutter Kane wrote me to do. I was like, fuck, that line is chilling. That line is, man, that is freaky. That and also the guy on the bike saying he won't let me leave. Ooh, man, that one. That's another thing that really scares the hell out of me, which that's a big reason why this entire film freaks me out. One of my biggest fears, I've always said, when it comes to horror films, my biggest fears are the things you can't fight against. The thing that you can't run away. That's why slasher films never really do it for me. Very rarely does a slasher film actually, like, freak me out, because I'm like, yeah, okay, he's intimidating, but run. It's a guy with a knife. Like, yeah, I mean, don't fight him, but he's walking at 2 miles an hour. You could probably, like, get a couple blocks in between you and ask for some help. Yeah, that's why that stuff has never freaked me out, but the more, like, omnipotent you can make your enemy, the more it just really freaks me out. And another thing that always freaks me out is whenever you're in a place that you cannot leave. That's one of the reasons I think I have a problem with riding on planes. Because, yeah, I do not like riding on planes. It took me several years to figure out why that was. And eventually I think I just realized, like, oh yeah, you get locked in this thing, and no matter what happens, you are trapped inside this thing. So if something bad happens, you are stuck in this thing. And that really applies to horror films. That's one of the reasons why the woods always freaks me out in horror films. Like, you can't get out of the freaking woods. That thing is a maze. And I grew up in the woods, and even I can't get out of that place. And this, I mean, just seeing somebody trying to escape this town, just being like, he won't let me leave. That line, man, does it hit me hard. And then, like, towards the end of this, when Sutter Kane just becomes God. Holy crap. Yeah, it really bums me out about some of the previous Thorgiweens that we've done, because last year we did top 31 horror movie villains to close out the year, and the year before that we did my top 31 favorite horror films. I would absolutely go back and put Sutter Kane on the villains list, and I would absolutely put this movie in my top 31 favorite horror films. I don't know where I put them, but they'd both be pretty damn high. So yeah, we rarely ever, like, give scores during Thorgiween, but I would give this, like, a 9 out of 10 for me. Like, I love this thing.
Yeah, me too.
Really? Wow, that high?
I mean, I think, like you, I need to, like, watch it a second time to, like, you know, because, you know, like you said, the first time around, I'm, like, still, like, putting the pieces together, but from what I have seen, I really did enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear that, because, like we said, when the movie ended last night, I was like, oh, man! Oh, I am in. I love this. And I turned to you and you were just like, that was weird.
I was kind of like, my brain was still, like, processing.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Which now that you, like, explained to me, is like, yeah, I was putting the pieces together. I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I was doing the first time that I saw this film. But yeah, really love that. So, make sure that you come back tomorrow. Like I said, the first 3 days this month are going to just be random things that we want to watch. But then after that, we're going to start our themes. So I hope that you guys enjoy this year's Thorgiween. Come back, ring that bell, all those things down below. And as always, happy Halloween.